person will escape some element of rebuke from the court. Who gets the most rebuke? I don't know, because that's going to depend on how the court is convinced in terms of whether some people are excluded, whether some people became left when they shouldn't have left, and things like that.
What would rebuke mean? Would rebuke mean the judges then saying, the Supreme Court of Kenya saying disband this body? Would rebuke mean we recommend further investigations into this? How far can they rebuke and take action?
The rebuke, they can't say disband the body. The court also doesn't have those powers. In fact, I doubt that the court has even powers of what, and this is the one thing I really want to be public about. I doubt that the court has powers to do what the petitioners were really insisting, excluding either the chairperson from a runoff election or some part of the commission. I don't think the court has that, and it's not really the court's business. But
whose business is it then?
So the business of who is a commissioner is first and foremost the selection panel, who selects who should be a commissioner, and secondly, Parliament and the appointment process by the president, even though that is ceremonial. But the removal is an entirely different process under Article 251, which has to be done by the National Assembly, but it's an entire process, and we don't have the luxury to do that within the 60 days. But just coming to the question, so and the court, in my own view, would be overstepping, for example, to say you cannot, especially for the commissioners. Remember, they're independent; it's an independent commission.
Yep.
You cannot participate. The court, in my own view, can say, these are the lines. These are the red lines. You can't cross here. You can't cross here. This is how much you can do. This is what you can't do. But I don't think it can entirely exclude a commissioner. Yes.
How, even looking at then what the court then has powers to do or not do, do you see this as another opportunity to then set boundaries as to what then could happen? We saw 2017 then coming out with certain guidelines in which then an election then should be run. Does this present another opportunity that regardless of what the decision is, that would there be, if we can call it an addendum to the judgment saying, look, is it possible that in the future, for elections being run in this country, that then 1, 2, 3 must happen in order to avoid a situation such as this? Does this present an opportunity for that to happen?
Yes. In fact, when the declaration was made and there was an indication that petitions would be filed, I thought the court process was so important for two reasons. One, before I come to the fundamental reason, for therapy reasons. It was good for Kenyans to have the opportunity to ventilate or see the issues ventilated as they were considering the long-term implications.
All right.
And that's what the Supreme Court has done, and with some entertainment. So we should actually be grateful for that. But the second reason, which is the fundamental reason, is because it was a good opportunity to perfect our processes. Remember, 2017 helped perfect the process so far and made it very clear to especially the commission that if you go messing up with the processes, don't think you just bring us numbers, and even if the numbers are accurate, that's it. This time around, I think the processes that will be perfected by the court is really clarifying for this commission how you go about doing your job. This is what the law requires. So next time, nobody comes and says they were sent to a catering committee or a different type of responsibility, which is not their responsibility. And for me, that does help significantly in perfecting our electoral processes. As we can see, I think regardless of what the court rules, there is some element, in my own view, and I know a lot of people may disagree, there's an element of substantive difference between how the 2017 elections was conducted and how the 2022 election was conducted. Some people might say people just became very, very good at their business, but I'm not so sure that is necessarily fully true.
What was my question?
Okay, let's give
You
it time.
ask your.
I will ask mine.
I had a question that has just gone.
It will come. If you try to force it, it'll keep going away. Just leave it. It'll come in its own good time. It doesn't just there.
So you ask your question.
Okay. See, I'm talking to your question so that it doesn't go away. I'm addressing your question. Yes, I know the language that questions need to hear.
Infinitely so.
You know, there's I'm going beyond the discussion about the Supreme Court and the matters that are now before us. And I'm asking the question, when you look at the evolutionary process that our elections seem to take us through, and our focus, our very pointed focus on the presidential election, would you say that this particular political system that we have serves our best interests?
You know, that's the question, the type of question a witness is asked and the lawyer says, don't answer that question.
I asked the question because you came here and we've spoken to you in the past. And the fact that you're a constitutional lawyer, it's a question that one has to ask. Because even if we're to talk about it and it's a debate, then let me ask perhaps a simpler question. Should this be something that we then moving forward have as a national debate?
It is. And actually the question, for me, I am not refusing to answer your question. I just wanted to quip. But for me, I read your question raising the fundamental issue. Is this really the processes we've seen, the product we are getting from these processes, is this really what we intended when we were having this constitution or when we were fighting for this constitution? And by and large, maybe not. Maybe not, because whether you look at it in terms of process, how things get contested, the fact that this is a people's constitution, but the elites keep trying to find ways to overthrow a people's constitution. What you see happening in terms of the different narratives in courts, it's elite competition and to try and overthrow or take over the constitution. When you look at, for example, the individuals who are being elected and a significant majority having questionable record, then you start asking yourself, when we are not able through these processes to meet certain minimum constitutional threshold, for example, the gender threshold, which is in the constitution, then you have to ask yourself whether this political process or the political process is giving us what the constitution intends. And yes, I believe there is need to have the conversation. But you know, and I'll use a bit of a rudimentary language. There's never going to be a conference of Kenyans to discuss. We are doing that. And for me, this is why, for example, what happened in the Supreme Court last week and what will be happening today is so important. Because while only so many lawyers are in that court, only so many judges are there, Kenyans are having their moment of Supreme Court. They're discussing, they're trying to understand issues, they're engaging and they're feeling part of it. That's the conversation. Next time, maybe the bigger conversation won't be about processes of election. It's going to be about integrity. And Kenyans will engage with it in their different ways. And we have to be patient to build a democracy. And I think that's what we're doing. And I think for me, and this is really...
Well, we've been patient.
We've been patient, but we've done very well in my own view. By the way, I'm one of the most impatient people when it comes to constitutional violation. But I actually think we've done very well. Sometimes I think when we become too grim about our performance, it could also down our spirit, and then
we lose what we've gained.
We lose what we've gained. The fact that judges can sit there and start asking questions about what were the National Security Advisory Committee members going to do at Bomas.
Yeah.
Could you have tried that 20
years ago?
Yes,
could any, how many judges? Let me not say could
yes,
any.
you could have, but the definitive results of your questioning were known.
There we go. There we go.
You
but
know,
I
know the answer,
you
which is
know
not
the
the
answer,
answer
yeah.
you're seeking.
Yeah, I want to underline one point. What we saw last week is so important. And for me, and this is really critical for me, the way judges showed up was so important. They came, you could see they were trying to be objective, they were trying to do the right thing. It's a difficult case. It could go either way. And I think if there's anything Kenyans can do is to support what the judges come back with. Because I can see any reasonable and an independent judge being able to go either way. And it would be so unfair for people to come out because the decision didn't go their way and say it's because the judges were influenced. This is not a case where the judges need to be influenced to go one extreme way, in my own view.
Very, very well said there, Waikwa. Very well said. And I think that's a message that we want to carry along, right? That if we trusted the process, we trusted that we have the judges. We knew the judges before we went to court, and we've gone to court, and we've argued before court. Then when the judges come out and give their verdicts,
whatever it is,
we respect them as we respected them by appearing before them. Waikwa, stay on. So in the next time, we want to open the phone lines and ask the people, which decision do you expect the Supreme Court to take today? That's what we're asking the people, not you. But then there are people who may be having some questions here and there in terms of understanding the matters, understanding the issues, and let them ask as well, right? Okay. Waikwa Wanyoike is a constitutional lawyer. He's here with us today because it's a big day, Judgment Day, and we want to understand what exactly we should expect out of the Supreme Court. Keep it here for more. We've been live on KTN Home. Conversation continues on SpiceFM. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Oseto. The Supreme Court will today decide whether to uphold or nullify the results of last month's presidential election,